Joining me now is Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino, and Democratic Congressman Jimmy Gomez of California. And Congressman, I want to start with you. Good morning to you both. On this question of Donald Trump and calling MS-13 members animals, does it make sense to make a distinction whether he's talking about gang members or immigrants when he does slide back and forward between the two, and when, I mean, as a matter of sort of, anthropological fact, MS-13 members are also human beings. They're not good human beings, but they're human beings.
You raise a good point. Here's the thing. This president started his presidency and his campaign demonizing Mexican immigrants and basically calling all of us, my parents, my siblings, everyone, rapists, criminals, murderers. So this is just a continuation of that theme. He might not have said that during when he came down the escalator and when he launched his campaign. He might have not called us animals, but we know what he meant. He was trying to dehumanize, delegitimize, and marginalize immigrants. And this is just more red meat for a certain segment of his base. So this is just a continuation of that theme. Yes, he kind of picks out MS-13 as an example, but we know that when he kind of says these remarks, he does it on purpose to really rile up his base. So I don't buy this that he was just referring to MS-13 gang members, because his actions and his words were constantly throughout his administration reinforcing the fact that he just doesn't believe in immigrants as a whole. So no, I don't. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Just making the point that, I don't recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether he called, the Vegas shooter an animal or the Santa Fe shooter an animal, or, I quite remember he said the opposite about the Charlottesville marchers with the tiki torches. So it is an interesting dichotomy. Maria Teresa Kumar, when Donald Trump talks, his administration and his supporters tend to talk like him. He has changed everyone's language so that everyone sort of sounds like him. Here is Sarah Huckabee Sanders responding to reporters who were asking about the Trump animal comments on Thursday.
The president was very clearly referring to MS-13 gang members who enter the country illegally and whose deportations are hamstrung by our laws. If the media and liberals want to defend MS-13, they're more than welcome to. Frankly, I don't think the term that the president used was strong enough.
Okay, and one more. Here's Kellyanne Conway just this morning on Fox defending the idea of building a border wall with Mexico.
This president talks about keeping out illegal immigrants and separately folks who come here to do harm. He's against catch and release. He obviously is very much against the savages in the MS-13 gangs. However, he's also talked very crisply and definitively about the poison that's coming over our border. And this wall would serve many different functions, including keeping out that poison.
Poison, savages.
Let's be clear, Joy, the last time that we had Donald Trump talk about animals, he was referring to the Central Park Five, individuals that were basically suspected of raping an individual and then were exonerated after many of them lived most of their life in prison. That is who we're talking about, an individual that basically sees a swath of color and immediately feels more comfortable categorizing them as animals, and that is not acceptable. The fact that Heather Meyer was run down by a neo-Nazi during that Charlottesville incident, and all he said was that it was something that, it's something that his family had to deal with, but he would not recognize it as an act of terrorism is not acceptable. The fact that right now immigrants, the people that he says cross the border undocumented, are the ones that are making him very rich. Who are in his hotels? Who are the people that are making sure that they are cleaning his home, taking care of his, taking care of his wealth? The fact that we cannot recognize the brute force that immigrants wake up every single day and have to face because of not only his language, but his language is translating into policy that we have to reckon with. Between now and 2020, they're going to be close to a million documented immigrants that are going to become undocumented overnight because this president has decided that he's going to revoke a lot of their residency, whether it's temporary protective status, whether it's revoking DACA, the list goes on. Yeah. And that is what we have to recognize, that once someone starts using and categorizing any human being as an animal, it's a slippery slope because all of a sudden we are dehumanizing a whole swath of Americans Americans, a whole swath of who our heritage is, and that has got to stop, because not only are his words important, but more importantly, the policies and the implications of those policies that he is creating.
Yeah, on this show, we interviewed some filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, who talked about the fact that Donald Trump's Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue was built by largely undocumented Polish labor.
That's right.
And they threatened to deport them when they complained about not getting paid. Congressman, let's talk about this policy, because there's the words, which are offensive, but there's also the policy. Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security is now under the auspices of the Attorney General of the United States, Jefferson Sessions, is going to begin separating parents from their children if they come across the border undocumented. Here's Senator Kamala Harris grilling Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, DHS Secretary, on that policy on Tuesday.
Your agency will be separating children from their parents. And
no,
I would
what we'll be doing is prosecuting parents who've broken the law, just as we do every day in the United States of America.
I can appreciate that. But if that parent has a 4-year-old child, what do you plan on doing with that child?
The child under law goes to HHS for care and custody.
They will be separated from their parent.
Just like we do in the United States every day.
Your thoughts, Congressman?
This administration needs to get their story straight. You know, Kelly actually said that this was a way to try to deter families, parents, from coming to the United States. It's not a policy of making sure these kids are safe. It's meant to terrorize the families, terrorize the parents, so that they don't come here. So this party of family values, right, is actually terrorizing kids by stripping them away. And even in my own district, kids are afraid that their parents are going to be deported, that they are legal citizens. So this is not something that is isolated to just the border. So we've seen this, and this kind of rhetoric that we've seen, this policy, also just creates a lot of fear within the immigrant community across the country, not just the ones that are coming here currently.
And Maria Teresa, you know, Kirstjen Nielsen claims that it's just when you prosecute a parent who is being prosecuted for, and I'm not sure that crossing the border is a felony, but anyway, that you're going to prosecute them separate. And then, you know, Jeff Sessions has said very explicitly that this is, as the congressman said, punitive. It's designed to be a deterrent, to tell people we're going to separate you from your children if you try to come here. We've talked about on this show instances where they've just simply separated them, not to prosecute the parent, but just to separate them. And you now have the Washington Post reporting that the Trump administration is preparing to hold those separated children, not in HHS custody, as Kirstjen Nielsen tried to sort of make it sound like a softer policy, but to warehouse them on military bases. Your thoughts?
Well, Secretary Nielsen is clearly in over her head, and she doesn't even know where to start. The fact that she was about to resign because President Trump hurt her feelings, not because they literally are going around knocking on doors, ICE knocking on doors without warrants, trying to separate families and parents from their children in broad daylight. Now, basically, individuals are crossing the borders trying to seek asylum. Asylum is, by the Geneva Convention and by our laws, is something that is acceptable, and separating those women and children at the border is abhorrent. And the fact that the Secretary of Nielsen is trying to play and tout the Trump game instead of actually saying, look, we are actually on the verge of maybe possibly breaking laws.
Yeah.
There's so much nuance here. But let's go back to this. When she said that these children are going to be processed by DHS, we should all be alarmed. DHS has lost close to 1,700 young people, minors, separated from their families. They literally do not know where they are. They don't know if they're lost into the system. They don't know if they've been given to people that can actually put these children in harm's way. Where is the accountability? Where is the oversight? Again, to Representative Gomez's point, when Republicans claim that they are the party of family values, they are not doing it to the most vulnerable, and they are not paying attention to the least, to the ones that need the most voice right now. And that is dangerous.
And Congressman, what is Congress doing about this? We've heard reporting that some big business groups are now trying to push Republicans to rethink immigration reform. There is a constituency out there to do something more positive and proactive. Is anything happening at all in the House of Representatives?
You know, we have a Republican leadership that doesn't want to take on this issue. We do have a issue that we're trying to deal with regarding DACA. We have 21 Republicans signing a discharge petition. We need 25 of them, including the majority, all the Democrats, to pull the bill regarding DACA and create a Queen of the Hill process on the floor of the House of Representatives. But the Republican leadership doesn't want it because they know that they need to turn out their base. But the moderates within the Republican Party and the Democrats as a whole are trying to push to solve DACA and to make sure that the kids that are here, that are undocumented, that are under the DACA program, have a path to stay here. So we're trying to solve it. But without this change in leadership, without a change in who controls the House, we're never going to get there.
And we come right back to the elections again, as I keep trying to tell folks, you got to vote. You got a different Congress if you want a different presidency. Maria Teresa Kumar, Congressman Jimmy Gomez, thank you both for your time. Have a great Sunday.